The first item on the agenda is consideration of Public Works Committee meeting minutes from May 3rd.
Move for approval.
Second.
There's one thing I'd like to add. Under the proposed costs for use of barricades, cones, et cetera, for special events, can you just make sure we make a note in there that the items are, that there's no charge if
Yep.
the items are picked up
Okay.
and returned by the individuals hosting the event? Any other changes or additions? It's a motion and a second. All in favor, vote aye. Aye. And that carries. Next item on the agenda is review of improvement options and cost estimates for the 2nd and Vine Street intersection. We have one individual here who, we're going to first approve the meeting minutes from our May 17th tour. That was last week.
Make a motion to approve the 17th meeting.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Those meeting minutes are approved as well. Okay, so item number 3.
Or maybe take the Eagle Scout first, or do you want to come? What did you think?
That's fine, that's fine.
Whatever.
We can take item number 5 first. Eagle Scout project, you have an information sheet regarding Floyd Johnson's Eagle Scout project, and Floyd is here and prepared to speak to us. Would you like to step up to the microphone, please?
Do you have hard copies?
You guys have any sheets?
Yes, we all got copies, so we should be fine. Thank you.
I'm not sure if you guys have this handout yet.
But we didn't have the blueprint, I think you said you were going to bring.
All right. Hi, everybody. I am Floyd Johnson. I am with Boy Scout Troop 140. It's based right here in Hudson, Wisconsin. And I am going to be planning on starting my Eagle project sometime soon here. And as you can see on your sheet in front of you, I'll just give a brief explanation of it while you're reading over it. My main goal for this project is to entertain and inform people around Hudson of other Hudsons around the United States of America and Canada. And I would like to move to put 2 signs up. One sign will be in Prospect Park, and the one concerning this meeting would be the one over by the library near the public entrance to it. And from my previous research, I have found that there are 15 Hudsons in the United States and Canada. And I think it would be important for the people of this Hudson to understand that there's history behind the name Hudson. And it is important for everyone to know, including our youngsters and everyone, I guess.
Okay. Do you want to address anything specific about the project? We have details in front of us, but is there anything you want to bring to our attention?
I guess since you were unable to see it in the preliminary events, the blueprint of this, I would like to ensure that all the dimensions are, I'll say, kosher or okay to be used.
Okay.
I'm under the I understand that they are to be used. There's only one thing I would like to change is that 3 feet and 2 inches deep. That's actually supposed to be 3 feet and 3 inches deep. That is a misprint.
Okay.
And as I said, in this meeting, I would like to nail down the spot of the library to make sure that because that is on city property, I understand.
So are you thinking near the corner of First and Vine, or are you thinking near the parking lot entrance?
I'm thinking near the parking lot entrance because there's a big sign there that says library. And after speaking with Linda Donaldson, she said they're planning on putting in some vegetation and such there. So I'm planning on putting the sign somewhere in that vegetation so it'll be relatively out of the way and won't have to be too much mowing or maintenance out of the way.
Sounds like a good idea. Tom,
Danny Darnold and I actually went down to the site and we looked at location in front, kind of where the picture is. And then up by the driveway entrance where Floyd's talking about, and just felt that that driveway entrance might be a better location.
Mhm.
And we didn't have any issues or concerns.
Okay. All right. Comments or concerns?
Would you have more exposure to this if you put it at, over by the beach parking lot?
I was thinking about that, but
And people go to see the band shell and they all go to the beach and, it's just a question.
yeah, I was thinking about that. One of the backup locations for the area around downtown Hudson here was over by the Scout statue. And after considering it for a while, I think that the driveway entrance near the library might be better, because then people that actually go to the library, because I know a lot of people don't tend to go to the beach as much as they would go to the library. That's some people I know. And the secondary location for this sign would be in one of the parks around Hudson. So it's either going to be Prospect Park down there or Williams Park. So I think that it would be better spread out if we didn't have them in two parks, instead we had them parked in somewhere where the rest of the public would go.
Okay. What's the total height of this going to be? Am I just to add 6 inches times the number of signs plus 8 feet?
Yeah, I believe we said that I think we figured it that the total height of this, after the 8 feet is taken out, would probably be somewhere around 13 feet tall. I understand it's a very significant height, but we have a 2-foot base of cement and a 39-inch depth of it.
Well, is there any reason you're starting the first sign 8 feet off the ground? I'm just wondering how visible these are going to be when they're...
I am starting the first one off the ground because that is the general one used around Hudson here and in the United States in general. 8 feet is usually for vandal proof. So if anyone wishes to vandalize, it's going to be far more work or impossible for them to vandalize it at 8 feet high. It'll be a lot more work for someone to try to vandalize it than if it were right at eye height.
Is there a certain color scheme you're using, or is it just a galvanized steel?
Yes, the galvanized steel pole will probably just be black or gray, possibly painted gray. And the signs are all going to be according to the school colors of the high school at the various Hudsons. So I know Hudson, New Hampshire, their colors are gold and maroon. So the sign will be yellow and the wording will be maroon. And I'll be working with a sign company here in Hudson through that, or 3M if he is unable to do so.
Okay. Well,
Tom, how high are the championship signs? Are those 8 feet up?
We try to keep most our signs 7 feet or higher.
Oh, okay.
And he does have a point. I mean, a little bit higher for the street signs are better. And even at 8 feet, it's still possible to vandalize.
Should Danny look at this to be sure it abides by our sign ordinance? I don't know if this even meets our sign ordinance.
He was actually, when we went down to the library, he's aware of it, and
Okay.
I didn't see any red flags at that point.
Okay, so we
We can certainly run it by him again, but
Yeah, and I spoke with him, if I may interject, I spoke with him a previous date before our last meeting. I do not have the date on hand, but I spoke with him and he okayed the sign as it was before I added the depth and the width of the cement. So I'm hoping that it still fits, even though I added some stuff. But he was okay with it before it was as strict as it is.
just one thing. There's a new ordinance for street signs that's coming out, and we're required now to have the first letter uppercase and then the rest of them lowercase letters. So probably should, to be uniform with the new regulations, we should probably consider that.
do you think that applies to signs that are not
Probably
arterial
not.
signs?
Probably doesn't apply to it, but it might be a good idea to be consistent, although, we're gonna slowly replace our signs as we go. I mean, it's not gonna be a big change, but if this is any new signs that we put up, that's what we're gonna do from now on, is follow the regulations, but.
Randy, you were going to say something.
I'm really trying to picture this multicolored sign sitting in the library, and I don't know what these colors of the schools are gonna be, if it fits into the whole scheme of what they're trying to accomplish, or we're trying to accomplish at the library. I'm having a hard time grasping that.
Tell me again, Floyd, where exactly, and Tom, you mentioned you and Denny had looked. Are you looking at the entrance to the library?
The driveway entrance, when you're heading in, there was a big spruce tree.
Okay.
And we took that down, and it's just like a little median.
So it's off to the right as you're driving in?
That's on the
It's
right
not up
side.
against the building?
No, it's on the right side as you drive in, and it's just on the north side of the new sidewalk we put in.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I think that might be a little better. I was envisioning on the other side, and then it was going to be close to the building. But you said there's plantings in there.
There will be plantings in there. That's the
Okay.
final goal.
Okay. Okay.
I really like the location in the lakefront parking lot. Only because, first of all, it doesn't interfere with any of the architectural structure of the library or anything else. That's number one. It has exposure to all of the concerts. All of the people going to the concerts are exposed to this then. All of the people going to the beach have exposure to it. And that parking lot is used frequently by a lot of people going to the downtown area. And it just seems to me that if you're looking for exposure, and you want people to be educated about these Hudsons, that it just has a higher traffic load, and also a wider variety of people will be exposed to that. People from out of town will come into Hudson and visit that parking lot, and just for exposure.
The one thing I think about in relation to that is more people will be walking by it
Yeah.
in a location on Lakefront Park as opposed to just driving into the parking lot and, you're only going to catch traffic coming down. So we're not in any way, being critical of the idea or your project. It looks like a good one. Tom, what are your thoughts about something on Lakefront Park instead?
Where are you thinking, Rich?
I'm thinking at the south end of the parking lot, maybe up in the grass area, as you go to the very south end there, just before you go into the bandshell area,
Okay,
just as you're entering into the bandshell area in there. Just off the path, that path that goes in there.
yep. Actually, there's a little median that we're gonna try to do a little work on, so maybe that'd be a good place.
Yeah, it just seems that there's quite a bit of exposure
Sure.
from that location.
I know what
I
you're
don't
talking
know.
about. That's a good spot.
Well, I agree. I mean, I like the project, but I wouldn't like to see it at the library. But if you move it to the lakefront, wherever you guys would decide, I think would be a lot more visibility for you, and it would satisfy me.
Is that agreeable to you?
I could see it, but
It's maybe not your first choice, but
it's not my first choice. But
okay.
I could see it being a viable possibility in the near future.
Okay. Could we do this, Tom? Could we, can we find a spot in I mean, can we be specific about the location and then bring it back to full council? Can we approve a motion based
Have a
on
little
that?
map or something and bring back to council
Yeah,
by
just so
then?
we know exactly where it'll be in Lakefront. I think that's something that the council will probably,
I mean, it's not a small visible sign. This is a
Yeah.
this is a piece of artwork, basically. So it should be put in the right spot.
Yeah.
Whether we're right or not.
which kind of brings up another question, and if you remember the guidelines that we came up with regard to the Boy Scout statue, we better make sure we're not in any way,
Is it a monument,
Yeah.
the monument
No.
memorial?
do you remember?
Monuments.
Has to have historical significance, or we need to make sure we're complying with that.
I think we would definitely be in compliance with Hudson, but I'd definitely double check.
Yeah. At the time that the Boy Scout statue went in, there was a lot of discussion, and the council approved a measure that outlined guidelines for monuments and things within the park system. So we should just double check that and make sure we're not setting a precedent. Is this all possible by Monday?
Oh, I think so. Do you think so, Tom?
Is there a time urgency on your part?
No, it's
No,
not
it's-
Monday,
it's
it's actually, it's another
Oh,
week.
that's
Yeah,
right.
we've
We
got.
have a holiday,
Yeah.
June.
So we
June
have
6th.
June 6th.
Yeah.
So that's the earliest it would be back at full council and,
What is your timeline?
I know I am not going to be here throughout most of the summer, starting on June 12th, I believe.
Okay.
So I would be able to make it to any June 11th meeting.
June 6th though,
June
is when
6th,
we meet,
excuse me.
yeah. You would be able to make it?
I would be.
Okay. And so when would you envision starting the project?
I'm not actually envisioning starting it until sometime in the fall.
Okay,
So after all the, looking to get all the approvals and
okay,
Oh, all right.
preliminary work done beforehand so I can get right at work.
okay. Well, why don't you plan to attend our June 6th full council meeting? It's a Monday night. It starts at 7. And we'll try and get these things pulled together before then.
Do you want a formal motion?
Yeah,
I'll move we approve contingent on placement in the Lakefront Park of the sign project for Floyd Johnson Eagles project, also contingent on within our sign ordinance /
monument.
policy.
Okay.
And I will second that with all of those conditions.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure. See you on the 6th. Okay, and back to item number 3, review improvement options and cost estimates for the 2nd and Vine Street intersection. Little bit of history, going way back to February 2010. The Public Works Committee, well, actually, City Council authorized to go to bid. We did that, and in May of 2010, we opened the bids. And the bid that was chosen was 162, 185. However, the full council rejected that bid. Since then, there's been some ongoing discussions about some more temporary fixes for that intersection, being mindful of the fact that the intersection is probably going to be completely reconstructed within the next 2 to 5 years, which is why I think full council wasn't interested in spending $162,000. So there are 5 temporary solutions, and just for the viewing audience, I'll briefly run through those. The first is to polymer inject the voids under northbound concrete slabs throughout the intersection to level and raise them. The second option is to remove and replace 2 cracked concrete panels and inject polymer into the voids under the northernmost northbound slabs only. The third option is to mud jack the voids under the concrete slabs in the majority of the intersection to raise and level them. Fourth option is to reconstruct the entire intersection with bituminous, including the worst areas of curb and gutter and the sidewalk around the returns. And then the fifth option is full reconstruction, and that's at the 162, 185. Tom, I'm going to let you take it from here. And as I said, Mike Lesher's here, and he would like to speak at some point.
Well, we knew that we didn't want to go with the total reconstruction that was proposed last year, so we just came up with different options. Dennis and I have looked at this numerous times, and we felt that if we would go with option 1, it's gonna be just the foam lifting of the panels, and it's gonna really minimize traffic issues. I think the process is expected to take about 8 hours. They may do it at night if it was permitted. I know there's a work ordinance concern. There is a apartment building there. Another possibility was early Sunday morning, like 7 a.m. on Sunday. They felt that they could just have one lane closed, and then they'd have to detour one lane whether it's north or southbound.
Mhm.
We'd probably have to limit some of the traffic on Vine Street, you know, just that one block on each side of the Second Street. So this is just an option to basically level the concrete. We're still gonna have the issues, there's still some big cracks in there that we've been filling with asphalt. I think there's some better products, you know, there's some concrete products that we could put in there also. And that's kind of where we're at. This is
Okay.
the money, we're looking at about $25,000 that was approved by the council. And this project here would get us into that, at least improve the ride going northbound and keep the cost minimal,
Okay,
and minimal traffic issues.
Dennis?
Well, I was
Would you
gonna
like
say
to
too
add?
that you still have to go out for 3 quotes, but you don't have to go out for public bidding
Okay.
if it's estimated to cost under 25.
Let me ask you, you don't mention anything in here from the concrete north in front of the our old white building, that blacktop.
That's something else that we could consider, whether it's part of this project or even part of our road project this summer, is from the end of the concrete, go back to, how far would that be, 30 feet maybe, to the end of the driveway entrance into the dental office,
Where it's
and get
back.
that milled and
Yeah,
overlaid.
because I see no reason why we would do this and not fix the rest of that. That's stupid.
It's one of these tough decisions. I mean, I can go down there and where do you start and stop? I mean, there's bad curb and gutter, there's bad pedestrian ramps, there's bad manholes, it's kind of where do you start and stop?
Right.
This is, for this one initial project, at least we can keep it under the 25,000, and, if we would like to incorporate, get a cost for that mill and overlay, say from the concrete north about 30 to 40 feet, that's a possibility maybe we could work in with our street project.
Well, that would be the time to do it when we have mobilization out, and then they can get in there and do it for less than it would if we had to remobilize somebody.
This is a concrete, a specialty, contractor that just raises concrete. We'd
Well, I
have
know,
to,
but if
You're-
you're talking
you're
from
right,
the
yeah.
north, from the pavement edge.
Instead of trying to do it now and having just a small amount of bituminous and a separate contractor,
Yeah.
better to coordinate it with the other work.
oh, I see what you mean, but then we're gonna have to bid it out once we go over the 25,000.
No, to include it as part of your other mill and overlay work, or,
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry.
Should probably be.
I understand you now.
better economy of scale.
And just from my opinion, what I thought when I saw this, number 2 and 4 were my first options. Obviously, 4 is double over what we want. 22 seems to make a little bit better sense, or 22.2 for 22,000 to take out those concrete panels. I'm not a fan of that jacking. I don't know enough about it. I think that's a cheap Band-Aid fix, and we're gonna be right back where we were.
Is there any sort of projected lifetime?
Actually, they sent specifications and standards, and they do a lot of this at airports.
Okay.
And the reasoning is that a lot of times that you don't have the downtime. If we were to remove and replace concrete, you still have to have, even with high early concrete, you still need 3 to 5 days minimum. So then we're tying up the intersection for a longer period of time.
But in terms of the lifetime you expect out of?
I thought they said about 10 years,
Yeah, you can get up to 10 years is what he,
which is beyond, hopefully we'll have something done prior to that.
and this polymer injection is different than the mud jacking in that it actually goes down into the soils, not just the cracks between the concrete and the soil. So it actually goes down 2-3 feet into the gravel base and the soil voids, which is probably the underlying problem with the intersection.
So what sort of issue might that present once we go in to actually redo?
Once we
Yeah,
reconstruct.
is it gonna,
No, you remove it just like you would bituminous pavement
okay,
or sub-base.
so it's not gonna make that more difficult?
Would it be cheaper for us to rip all the cement out, like number 4 says, and just do bituminous pavement? When we decide to when they mobilize, would the cost come down from the 56 and Plan 4? If we did it at once?
As part of the,
As-
this year?
Yeah.
No, you're still looking at roughly the same cost. It wouldn't come down a whole lot. The major cost there is the concrete removal, and that's a full reconstruction. You're going in and putting in a couple feet of gravel. Because you don't want to just take off the concrete and put back bituminous without touching the soil underneath the gravel. So that cost wouldn't come down very much if it was part of the other work. Maybe just the bituminous cost a little bit.
But that 56,000, that's curb and gutter replacement and
Yeah.
some ped ramps, I believe.
So if you forgot about all that, I think you could maybe come down to 46,000. If you didn't do the curb and gutter.
Rich, what are you thinking?
I like the proposal. I think the number one proposal looks like a good option if it's got a 10-year lifespan, because it's a lot of time to get the other projects completed and replace it permanently. So I think it's a good option.
Mike, do you want to come forward and say something? Could you just give us your name and address, please?
I'm Mike Lesher. I own the building at 700 2nd Street with my wife Julie. I just have a question first. The 2 to 5 year reconstruction, is that by the state or is that a City of Hudson project?
State.
It's not even on their radar.
Yeah.
So a question mark whether it'll happen in 2 to 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I read some stuff about a Vine Street drainage study. Would all of Vine Street be redone then with that study?
Basically, I think with that, we're looking at from First Street up toward 9th or 10th Street. I think it was 9th Street, and we have some discussion to do about that. So it'd be from 1st to 9th Street.
Okay. And then you would put in new storm sewer all the way down the street as well? Okay. I guess based on what I've heard here, the proposals that you're talking about with the high-density foam jacking seems reasonable, but I do think that we need to add the bituminous to the north because that is in very bad shape and being repaired frequently and breaking up. So I was a little bit disappointed to see the permanent options not get approved, but I understand, the dollar issues, and if it's going to be part of a bigger study, then it's prudent to wait. But I'm a little bit worried that the foam jacking is not going to be a 10-year solution either. So.
Okay.
And I should mention I'm a retired civil engineer, so have a little bit of background.
Well, the other thing,
Thanks.
whether the foam lasts 10 years, we still have a lot of other issues with bad curb in there and pedestrian ramps and concrete. We already know that the concrete's starting to fail. That's why we keep patching it. So I hope it doesn't get, like Mr. Lesher said, that it doesn't get put off too long. Because
So then why wouldn't we remove them instead of just jacking them up? What's option 2 states? And
still
it's
is
less
some-
than option 1.
Option 2 is replacing 2 very small concrete panels, not like 20 feet by 10, but more like
They're
5
8 by 13. 2 of them 8 by 13.
2 that are cracked the worst. One
Does
by
it correct the whole,
No. It actually probably, if those 2 panels, is that what you're?
yeah, the one
2
where the gate,
panels, they would be replaced 2 panels, and you'd have to still have, you still want level that big bump to the north. You'd still have to have that raised up.
well, yeah, I think option 2 included
Mhm.
injecting just the northern
Okay.
piece, so it doesn't take care of the approach on the south side as you're coming up to it. But it's just those 2 smaller panels, one where there's a gate valve and one where there's a manhole. They're kind of cracked around those 2.
Okay, I'm gonna
These are
ask.
just options, so we wanted to
Right.
discuss it, so it's,
I guess my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that Vine Street storm sewer project would be most likely to happen in 2 or 3 years ahead of the state doing a project. So
Mhm.
that's why we're thinking the 2 to 5 year.
we're not addressing the citizens' needs. And this is probably the number 1 issue that I get talked to about is this intersection. You could probably back that up.
I get calls every day. And I do use Dr. Lesher as my dentist, so I get a little nervous when I'm getting my
I think, having the money thing in the back of our head, but understanding the way government works, slow, we need to do a better job than just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Well, you're saying, Randy.
I think option 1 is a bigger Band-Aid than option 2 or 3. I mean, it should take care of not just the upper surface areas, but get down 2 or 3 feet and cover about 100 feet of the intersection. So from the north, going about 100 feet south. And so it covered the biggest area, had the least traffic disruption. And I'm talking to the vendor types of that, and the other work they've done with airports and freeways, it's should level it off. And they would actually catch part of the southbound one panel too, that's that you'd have to raise to make it consistent with the north panels.
I guess I'm less concerned about the traffic disruption than I am that we improve the greatest area of the intersection. You know, a couple days,
There's no question if we had the money, I'd like to redo the whole street, and do everything. And that's probably the best solution. But for a temporary solution, this one appears to be reasonable and workable.
is that a
And I
motion?
think we're gonna, as a city council, we're just gonna have to look at putting more money into the funds for redoing our streets, because as far as I'm concerned, we're way behind where we should be. And just looking at it roughly, we need $900,000 a year just to remain where we are today. And we're only spending $350 a year instead of $900,000, which means the infrastructure is gonna continue to deteriorate, and something's gonna have to get done with that. So it's part of the capital budget, it's gonna have to get done. Can't continue to ignore it.
I agree. I mean, but just clarify for me and the public and watching on TV, when we're doing this jacking, the visibility of cover, we've got the cement, we've got black patches of tar in between all the cracks. We're not addressing those issues at all, are we?
Not the cracks, that'll continue to be
So
crack
if
filled
the
by
jacking
culverts.
fails, those things will continue to break, and
It'd be maintenance all the time, yes.
so what are we accomplishing there?
Well, you say if the jacking fails, what sort of guarantee, warranty,
Can't remember what he had for.
might they give us as far as, are they gonna say, well, that's the best we can do, sorry, it's still not great? I'm just curious.
You feel confident that he can level off the concrete
Oh, okay, well, that's that part.
part of it, but still, where the concrete's failing and spalling, you still have the bad concrete. I mean, we're leveling off the good concrete that we have, filling the voids in the subbase.
It's kind of a bigger issue, getting back to the whole intersection needs to be reconstructed, obviously. And so you're trying to minimize your cost and make it last until you do that. So when you start getting into fixing the spalling joints, then you're getting back into the, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 range.
Even if we cut them out
Yeah.
and pour them in again, recompact the aggregate and then pour it.
Because you want to get all of them, which is the entire intersection.
Well,
And that's what option 4 was, basically removing all the concrete, repairing and repairing the base and some curb and gutter and putting asphalt back. If that's,
well,
We
not to
don't
me,
wanna-
the most common sense is to do number 4. Maybe we need to find the money for the extra $25,000. Or what are we budgeted for?
25. Yeah, that's a more permanent temporary fix.
Because we don't have a time frame, and it's not even on the DOT's radar of when 35 is gonna be reconstructed. We just don't know, and then we're gonna constantly throw these little fixes at it, and you bet you it adds up to at least $56,000.
I guess the question then is if and when you do Vine Street in 2, 3, 4 years, then do you want to reconstruct it then, even though you're spending more on it now? So it's kind of that, where and when do you want to spend it?
Yeah. To me, that's harder to justify.
How do we know? We don't have a time frame for that study and that project either, Money's tight all the way around, but we gotta put the money where our citizens most expect it to be, and right now, I'm hearing them say that intersection. A year ago, I didn't hear so much of that. Now it's even worse after we got through the winter. Now we need to address it at, I think, a different level. So I don't support one. I certainly, I'm leaning towards more four, and we gotta find, maybe the other $25,000.
Well, the only reason I don't support four is if we're gonna replace it, and I know we don't have a timeline on that one. But I have to believe that we're gonna, in good faith, go after that replacement of Line Street and make that move forward. I think there's enough people on the council who know that needs to get done.
Mhm.
And we'll have to figure out a way to do that. And if that's where we're gonna spend the money, I'd like to spend it there. And do what we need to do now is just temporarily fix this intersection.
I guess I would concur. I mean, Randy, you're always free at full council, obviously, to, you know, this issue sheet will go forward and they'll see all the options. And,
Right.
you know, if there may be some people who are more interested in pursuing option number 4. So this is just to make a recommendation to council. So the discussion, I'm sure, will be a lively one. Well,
Have you guys actually stood down there and look? I know you all wrote on it. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
saying this facetiously to actually look at that. Have you shown these how bad it is?
yeah, I mean, you haven't shown me, but I,
I say that nice. I'm not meaning.
No, I haven't gotten out of the car and
It's
walked around.
bad, and you know.
Especially truck traffic, you know, fire trucks and
Mhm.
our plow trucks, and it is bad.
no question about it. I don't think there's an argument there. Well, did you want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we adopt option 1, which is the polymer inject voids under northbound concrete slabs throughout the intersection to raise and level them.
That we move it on to full council. We make
Full
that
council, yeah,
recommendation.
Recommendation move forward.
I will second that. We need to have the discussion and we need to get something done, so. Any other comments? All right, all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And so we have a 2-1.
And please have my no clarify that I was looking at option 4.
Okay,
And I think option 4 is a good option, Randy. I think you're right. It's a much better one than the one we're moving forward to.
project update. Anything?
Do not have anything at this time.
Okay. Tom? anything?
Just been working on getting measurements for our street projects. I've been working up on Cooley Road from 11th toward Target. Looking at that area and getting measurements from O'Keefe to Nemacoggin on Hanley Road. Have talked with a couple contractors about crack filling and things like that. So we're trying to get specifications for that. As far as the parks, I measured the Lakefront Park bathhouse that we're gonna actually get milled and overlaid this year, which would tie in if we do any mill and overlay up on Second and Vine
I was
Street.
just gonna say we can't forget that part. You know.
So that, I mean, and I did bring that up to one of the contractors when we went looking for our projects.
You know, there's how much are we paying? Never mind for the parking lot to get.
Well, if you took, oh, forget it. I'm next. Think about it.
There's money right there for the intersection, right? Anyways.
There you go.
Well, but I mean, I think the issue with that you mentioned at council is some of these lots, if we don't get at them, they're gonna be a lot more work.
And I think that money's coming out of the parking utility, so it's a different fund.
Okay.
White Camp Park we're gonna actually have an appreciation picnic up there tomorrow, so people who attend will be able to see the new pavilion. We're down to just basically the landscaping, and we're working on that.
But the general opening to the public is
June 7th.
7th.
Yep.
at
People are
6
using
p.m.
the restrooms. It was very busy this morning. A lot of young families up there, and the park is being used a lot, so
Great,
that'll be a great addition to the park system.
good. Anything else? Okay, how about items for future agendas?
Could I ask Tom a question?
Sure.
Did you measure Aspen and Hanley for overlay?
Hanley, all of Hanley,
No, at the, more or less Aspen, when you turn on the Aspen from Hanley.
I've looked at it, I haven't measured it, but we can certainly put that down as an option as far as.
I thought we put it on the last time we approved the capital.
Mm-hmm. I think it was added.
That and the Hanley down off of O'Keefe.
Mhm.
Yep, absolutely, we got that one. I haven't measured Aspen, so probably not the entire street, but from, say, the intersection of Hanley,
Yep, that's
then
all I'm
go
asking.
west to, or south, I mean, to Pinewood, I think it is.
That's all I'm asking,
Mhm.
making sure that's still on the
Yep.
radar.
We'll put that down as an option, yes.
Okay. I have 2 items for next month. One, we've talked about we need to just have a discussion about the impact fees, stormwater impact fees, and the issue has come up about a potential lift station in Red Cedar Canyon. Let's just have just kind of an update, and maybe we can get information from Devin as far as what's in that fund, when it needs to be used by. Let's get that in front of us, so as these projects come up, we are all sort of on the same page. And then Rich had asked if we could look at the Whistler report in more detail as a committee.
Actually, Dennis has sent me some 5 and 10-year road plans from different communities, and I'd like to look at that in a little more detail, but I wouldn't mind this committee getting a 5 to 10-year plan put together that we can move forward into the full council and see if we can't get something approved that says this is how we're going to approach the roads in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't think we're at that point yet, but I do believe maybe if not next meeting, the meeting after that, we could probably look at those plans Dennis had given us and try to put something together similar to that for our city. And I'd feel a lot better if we had that type of plan out in front of everybody and everybody on board saying, yeah, this is what we agree to do.
I think it's a good idea. The challenge always is, and we can put a plan in place, the challenge always is, as council changes,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely, but
but the plan needs to be there.
You know, if there could be some continuity, even though the councils change, at least, you know,
Mhm.
one council will say this is our 5 to 10-year plan,
Right.
and even though it changes, they'll have to change it,
Mhm.
because that's the
So-
way we want to go, and that's what we want to do.
I mean,
Because right now, we just do it piecemeal, based on the amount of money we have, and that's all we can do.
Right. Okay, anything else for future agendas?
I did speak with the supervisor from River Falls Public Works, and we went around Hudson and talked a little bit. They use St. Croix County they contract out St. Croix County to do like spray patching.
Mm-hmm.
It sprays out hot oil and small trap rock, and they contract them out for so many days. It's so many dollars per day. And one of the streets that would be a really good street to do would be St. Croix Street from like Second up toward 10th or 11th. I'd like to maybe get a demo or something from St. Croix County to see if that would be an option to improve that road.
Didn't we do that we used to do that a while ago, didn't we?
We have a crack filler, just, filling cracks, but this is a
The whole
spray
thing.
patch. And it, you can spray pretty big depressions, and it levels it off and it improves the ride. So I know River Falls uses them, St. Croix County can actually contract those out. And I have had other private companies come in, and I'll try to talk them into doing a demo or something here this coming few months or something, this
Okay.
summer.
Sounds good. We can add that.
Dennis, just to get this on the record too, Dennis and Tom and I looked at the Whistler report, and the number 1s and 2s, which are the roads that are basically deteriorated and need to reconstruct, that alone is $2.5 million. And to do 3, 4, and 5 is another $2 million. So just to take care of 5 through 1, you've got a $4.5 million project in front of you. And it's only going to get worse, because 6s are going to go to 5s, and 5s are going to, and it's only going to continue to deteriorate.
Okay. Any other items? Okay. I'll
Move to
entertain a motion.
adjourn.
Right.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.